stop laughing, or this will be the intro. Nice.
Hello.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm Abby.
And I'm Shauna.
And this is Anxious.
And Afraid.
Ooh, the podcast.
Where we talk about spooky things.
Spooky.
Mysteries, terrible things.
Murders.
True
crimes.
Nice.
Other things. Terrible things.
Terrible things. That's why you're here.
Yep.
That's why we're here.
You're sick. We're sick. We're all sick together.
Morbid.
Yeah. Not that podcast, but yes.
True. Sorry. Didn't mean to mislead you. Anyways.
Anyway.
What's up, girl?
You know.
What's making you anxious?
What is? I'm kind of low energy today. I have a headache, you know.
Yeah.
It's because we're in Oregon and it rains here. And when it rains abruptly, my head is just broken. And it's like, I hate it.
Yeah. And it's like still hot, so it's humid.
Yeah.
But there's like no sun, but there's bright sun with clouds over it.
Yeah. We're having some weird weather. It's like June and it just has been raining
Yeah.
3 weekends in a row?
Sure. Yeah.
Which I guess is good because we get so many fires now. So
Very
hopefully
true.
that won't happen as bad.
I'm
this
not
year.
complaining.
True. But yeah, that's me. Also just a little world weary because the world sucks right now.
Breaking news. The world continues to suck hard.
God. It's just like every other day, it's just like a new shooting and it's just so depressing. The news is depressing.
It is.
It's making me sad.
It's terrible.
What about you? What made you anxious or afraid?
Well, I officially did start working this week. So that on top of being a mom is a bit exhausting.
You don't say.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. So that was a rough first week. I mean, it was like not bad. I mean, work was pretty fine, except for Friday was like terrible and exhausting. But
It's been nice to have you back.
yeah, it's been nice to be back, honestly. Like
we missed you a lot.
yeah,
But I can totally get why you would be fucking tired.
it's exhausting. And then next week, when this episode comes out, actually, then the next day, I'll be in office and I'll have my first like work day outside of home in over 2 years. And that'll be the longest I've been away from Rylan ever.
I know. Oh, that makes
It's
me sad.
Yeah, it makes me, I can't like think about it too hard because I just don't know how I'm going to deal on the first day.
I know. Everyone keeps asking me, like, how is she doing? How is she coping? How's her mama heart doing?
My mama
I'm
heart.
just like, okay. She's okay.
Yeah. I am okay. It's just, we'll figure out how I feel when I get to work in the office.
I mean, at least I'll be there for your first day. So that'll be
True.
nice. And we get, wait, what's your first day? Wednesday? We get free
so.
food on your first day.
Nice. That's the way I like to come back.
Yeah. And
Free office food.
Michael, I don't know if you saw, but we're going to have a food truck at our headquarters now. And it's like, what is it called? We all scream
Ice cream.
Ice cream for waffles.
Something like that.
Which waffle related food is
Is there
A-okay by
also
me.
like savory waffle sandwich?
That's what I saw. I saw something with chicken in it. And I was like,
Yes.
I'm going to get so fat.
That sounds too good.
I saw chicken and Gouda, and I was like, sold.
Oh my gosh. On a waffle with maple syrup. Yes.
Say less. I'm already there.
Say less? Is that what you just said? Just say waffle. Here's my money.
Yeah, take it. I'll eat it.
Yep. That's me. Work life. And
Balance.
mom life is weird.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird adjustment.
It's definitely hard to take care of myself. Like,
Do we even have time?
No. Like it's really hard when I don't eat. Man, does it become a bad day? And usually I can't eat or snack something until like in the evening or something. I just forget. I'm too busy.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to get those like easy to eat things.
Yeah. I gotta figure it out.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But you got to eat, girl.
I know.
Because I become a train wreck if I don't eat.
I know. Chad was just like, you're a bummer when you don't eat. And I'm like, I know, and I'm sorry. I know.
Some people get really angry and irritated. I just kind of shut down. I just like...
I get sassy. sassy. I'm just like, what?
Oh, sassy.
Yeah, I get a little sass.
You're hangry.
Very angry. Give me food.
Happens to the best of us.
Yep.
Well, should we begin?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, welcome to episode 97.
Get out of town.
That's wild.
Whoa, that's so close. I never thought we would get there. Okay. Sorry.
Here we are, still making it.
Wow.
Episode 97.
Wow.
So today, I have for you an amazing listener suggestion from a longtime listener and friend of the show, Gus.
Gus. I remember Gus.
You know Gus. Michael and I have both individually worked with Gus at different jobs before we even knew each other. So that's wild.
Oh my gosh, fun.
Such a small world. And he's basically the nicest man you'll ever meet. Mm-hmm. He also has a great radio voice, so he should do his own podcast.
You and Michael and him have great radio voices.
I know, and Michael rarely speaks.
Literally just read bedtime stories and you'll make people fall asleep.
Oh, true.
Such a good voice.
Side hustle, get on it. So
Make dough.
I'm just going to stay quiet now.
it's like, I'll never speak again.
I'm going to spite you and never talk.
So Gus sent me a suggestion. I've been sitting on it for a bit. But once I started looking into it, I couldn't believe I hadn't heard of the story before. Okay. So it has not only one, but two anxiety-inducing topics in it.
Oh, no.
Do you care to guess at the possible combination?
Okay. Does one have to deal with weather or natural disaster?
No.
Okay, interesting. I don't know.
Okay. The story will combine a plane crash and ghosts.
What? What?
I know.
How? Okay, tell me everything.
I know. Okay, so I did read a book for this one. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's titled The Ghost of Flight 401 by John G. Fuller. It's a good book. It's very informative of the crash, and it's got a lot of accounts from airline workers as well as some good investigative work on the paranormal side of this case. So go read it. I thought it was really good. But while writing this episode, I found I was already at like 10 pages just talking about the flight and the following investigation. So this story is going to be a two-parter.
Oh, snap.
We haven't done one of those in a while.
Oh, no.
So part 2, you're going to get all of those juicy paranormal sightings.
Okay, yes. Okay, yes.
Yes, something to look forward to. All right, so let's get started.
Whew, okay, my heart needs to prepare for a second.
It's going to be wild.
It's a little bit more fragile these days.
Yeah. And plane crashes are always just
terrible. The worst things ever.
so much anxiety. Okay, you'll never fly again. No. All right. So our story begins on December 29th, 1972 at the JFK airport in New York. The Eastern Airlines Flight 401 was scheduled to fly into Miami International Airport in Florida just before midnight. The plane was a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, which was a favorite among pilots, flight crew, and the passengers it carried. This was the dawning of the age of jumbo jets, and the L-1011 was built for comfort. The 250 seats were comfy and nicely spread apart, which I have never experienced that life. And the plane was so smooth and quiet, it had been nicknamed the Whisper Liner.
That sounds delightful.
Right?
That's how I want to travel.
I know. I was looking at pictures and I was like, what is that life? Look at these big, spacious seats. Every flight I've ever been on, you're just crammed in there like sardines.
Have you seen that? Like, they can be like a little like cubicle of like your own bed and like shelving and TV. Like, you're encapsulated in like your own little
Well, you have
nook.
All of the poor people have to walk past first class. So yes, I have seen that.
Yeah, bitches with money.
They should be in the back so that the rest of us don't have to look at it. That's not fair.
Honestly, rude.
They're like, okay, go past this section that you can't afford and just see how they're all stretched out with their little cubbies and with their blankies.
And they're served like sparkling wine and get like a hot towel and like legit food.
Yeah, and then they just kick us poor people. They're like, get out of here. Go let a child and an old man sleep on you for the whole flight.
That sucks so hard.
That was my experience. I became a human pillow to complete strangers. Okay, so the plane was equipped with state-of-the-art technology, boasting advanced autopilot computers that could land the plane on its own if so desired.
Nice.
That's wild.
Why don't we do that? Well,
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 you know what's going to happen.
never
so,
mind.
Yeah. And so I feel like for the 1970s, that's pretty impressive.
That's like future,
Right?
For them.
Although with a price tag of about $20 million, that's 1970s dollars, that plane better land itself.
Ooh,
20 mil. I don't know what that is in today dollars, but
a lot.
a lot. So the jumbo jet in today's story had been delivered to the airline about 5 months previous and had already flown about 1,000 hours and had safely landed over 500 times.
Mm-hmm.
The flight crew operating the craft on the evening of December 29th was also well-seasoned and experienced.
Of course.
The captain's name was Bob Loft, a 55-year-old veteran pilot with nearly 30,000 flying hours under his belt. Almost 300 of those hours had been spent flying the L-1011. He had been with the airline for nearly 32 years and was ranked 50th in seniority out of 4,000 pilots at Eastern Airlines. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
The first officer was named Bert Stockstill, a 39-year-old with about 5,800 flight hours, and 306 of those were also spent on the L-1011s. I was trying to think of that story you did. What was his name? The guy, his aircraft went down. We thought maybe it was an alien. I can't remember his name.
Oh.
Valentich.
Yeah, it was something long like that.
I just remember like we were
Frederick
trying to
something?
Yeah, Frederick Valentich, I think.
Something like that.
I think we were trying to figure out his flight hours. I think you said he only had like 100 something. And we were like, is that a lot? And then you look at these guys.
And I've done other airplane stories. I should have probably known. I probably have said like thousands.
I didn't know either. I was like, is that a lot?
Back in those days, yeah, I don't.
This guy has like 5,000 flight hours.
That's hilarious.
So I guess
You're dumb.
in the hundreds is not a lot. Okay. So second officer and flight engineer was named Don Repo. He was 51 years fun with about 15,700 flight hours under.
So spunky of you.
He's
Look at
fun.
you go.
They do say that he had a good sense of humor, so I had to put the fun part in there. So yeah, he had about 15,700 flight hours under his belt, and he absolutely loved the L-1011s, claiming to know them inside and out. So obviously this is a well-seasoned flight crew, no spring chickens in this group. The plane and its crew had touched down at JFK at about 7:30 p.m., which would give them plenty of time to prepare the craft for its 9 p.m. departure to Miami. The cockpit crew would remain on the plane, but the 10 flight attendants would be replaced with a new group for the Miami flight. One of the flight attendants, who was due to be replaced by the fresh crew, recalled having a disturbing premonition about 2 weeks prior. She had been working on a flight from JFK to Orlando when she was suddenly struck with a sick feeling, followed by a vivid vision. She saw an L-1011 flying over the Everglades on a dark night. The plane was flying towards the Miami International Airport when she witnessed the left wing crumble and the fuselage smash into the ground. She could clearly hear the sounds of the dying and injured aboard the plane and was overcome with the horror of it.
And this is like a very detailed vision she had?
Yeah, and she's just like working on a flight.
And this is 2 weeks prior?
2 weeks prior.
Ooh.
The vision ceased, and 2 of her friends and coworkers came to her aid, asking her what was the matter. The flight attendant shakily described what she had seen and said the accident would happen around the holidays, closer to New Year.
Get out of town. She's giving me chills.
I know, it's so spooky.
Girl, you have gifts.
I know. Listen to them. Her friends worriedly asked her if it was going to be them, and the attendant answered no, but it would be really close.
Oh my God. Okay.
Can you imagine having her as a friend?
Like you're literally asking, am I going to die?
Yeah. Is me on that flight? Give me a
If
hint.
she said yes, I'd quit.
Like, I have to go. I'm
Bye.
gonna get this parachute and just bounce out of here.
Oh my God.
So her friends were inclined to believe her, as this wasn't her first accurate premonition.
I get it.
She had also foreseen the deaths of 4 of her classmates who would tragically perish at a railroad crossing, so her visions were not to be taken lightly.
Oh, that's so scary.
And sad. I can't imagine having
is
those
sad.
kinds of visions. Being like,
Seeing it before it happens and knowing you probably can't do anything about it.
right? Like, who's going to believe you?
Oh, no.
So 2 weeks after her premonition of the plane crash, the flight attendant would be correct in saying it would be a close call if they would be on the doomed flight or not. She and her friends were relieved by the fresh crew for the flight to Miami on December 29th, although by then, the ominous vision had all but disappeared from the flight attendant's mind.
Ooh.
The pre-flight checks for Flight 401 went smoothly. The plane was in excellent working condition, and they had more than enough fuel to make the relatively short flight to Miami. 163 passengers were boarded, along with 13 crew members, and at about 9 p.m., the plane was ready for departure.
9 p.m.
9 p.m.
Okay. At night. All right.
Yeah, it's nighttime.
Like, what would be worse, nighttime or daytime?
You know,
It's all bad, but...
nighttime does, kind of lead to some of the reasons for this, but,
Really?
yeah, I don't know if it would be worse to see it. I don't know. So, the massive craft took its position on the runway, and just after 9:20, Flight 401 lumbered down the runway before smoothly lifting off into the air. The flight went smoothly on its way to Miami. Food and drinks were served, and all the passengers and crew seemed to be in good spirits, perhaps due to the upcoming holiday. I bet they were getting good food, too. Back then, I bet the airline food was so much better.
Yeah. Did they still smoke back then or no?
Yes, I think so. I think I read something about turning off the smoking light or something. I'm just like, that is so wild.
That's really not that long ago. Humans are so stupid.
It just is wild that you could smoke a cigarette. I don't know. In the air. We're not supposed to be up there.
We're not supposed to be up there in the first place, and then you light a fire because you want to smoke. It's like such convenience and selfishness.
Pushing it. You're pushing it. You're really asking for it. So the passengers ranged in age from babies all the way up to the elderly.
No.
There was even a white poodle on board stowed below the main deck.
Oh.
As the plane approached Miami, the bright city lights began to appear, which was a welcome change from the inky blackness of the Everglades they had been flying over. Do you know much about the Everglades?
No, but they don't sound fun.
Well, okay.
Is it murky, swampy?
Yeah, it's Florida. So
It's Florida with alligators.
Yeah, there's gators. So it's a tropical wetland that takes up about 2 million acres in Florida. Lots of water and sawgrass, gators, snakes, Florida stuff.
You don't want to be in it, no.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a national park in the Everglades. It is beautiful in its own right, but
Sure.
I don't think it would be my cup of tea because I don't like mosquitoes and humidity.
No.
That's just me. So, and on this particular night, there was no moon. So it's really dark. You can't see your hand in front of your face. And it's, remote and in nature, there's no lights around either. So it's just completely black.
Yeah.
Let's see. So when there's no moon. So when the passengers looked out their window to the marshes below, all they saw was blackness.
Whoa, that's creepy.
Yeah, there's no horizon line. It's kind of
almost like you're in space without stars.
Yeah, very disorienting.
That is disorienting.
So as the plane drew closer to the Miami airport, Captain Bob Loft's cheerful voice came over the intercom just after 11:30, saying, "Welcome to sunny Miami. The temperature is in the low 70s, and it's beautiful out there tonight." In the cockpit, Captain Loft was communicating with Miami Flight Control and confirming that they had permission to land. The okay was given, and Captain Loft gave the order to lower the landing gear, turning to his co-pilot Stockstill and saying, "Go ahead and throw them out," referring to the landing gear. A shudder was felt through the plane as the landing gear descended, and the pilots began going through their pre-landing checklist.
Mm-hmm.
They worked through the checklist quickly and efficiently, noting their rate of descent while doing so. Captain Loft surveyed the complicated panels of instruments and lights before him when he noticed something was wrong. Only 2 out of the 3 green landing gear lights were on, and the third one, for the landing gear under the nose of the plane, was dark.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the 2 wheels in the back and the one in the front.
And the one in the front isn't lighting up.
Oh, you need that one. You
I think you need all three.
You really need those.
But the front one, yeah, you definitely need that one.
Oh.
Yeah. So Stockstill looked at the lights and remarked, "No nose gear." Captain Loft said, "I gotta raise it back up, god damn it." So he did so, and then lowered the landing gear once more, but the result was still the same.
Oh, no. The terror building up. Okay.
There appeared to be something wrong with the nose gear. The craft had dropped to almost 1,000 feet when Loft contacted flight control saying, "Well, Tower, this is Eastern 401. It looks like we're going to have to circle. We don't have a light on our nose gear yet." Flight control acknowledged their call and instructed them to climb back up to 2,000 feet and do a loop while they tried to correct the landing gear issue. Bob Loft...
Sorry, I wonder if the passengers were able to, like, realize they were, like, going back up and circling.
Some of them did. I was reading, like, because they're heading towards the airport, so they can see the lights, and then they see the plane turn away from the lights and go back to the darkness.
What a weird feeling, and how confusing it would be. Okay, I'm
Right.
already, like, I can't handle it.
Well, like, the flight attendants on board weren't that concerned, because, like, landing gear problems aren't that uncommon, I don't think, or...
Really?
Yeah, so I think
I don't like that. What the fuck?
So I think they weren't alarmed initially. Like, having to circle isn't that weird. They're like, "Ah, damn it, we're just not going to make our landing
First
on
try.
time."
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were, like, not really concerned, but they're just like, "Ah, it's a delay."
Oh, gosh. Okay.
But you and I,
I would be screaming.
after all of these stories, would be like,
We're gonna die.
"Everyone panic."
Make your phone calls now. That's not funny. We're terrible.
No, I would be so concerned.
Oh, no, I
everyone-
can't imagine.
I'd be like, I need the oxygen mask just to calm me down.
So I hope well, it's nighttime. I wonder if people are sleeping.
Well, I think also they were feeling the landing gear going up and down.
Really?
Because, like, it makes, you
You feel it.
can feel it in the plane. So the flight attendants were like, something must be going on with the landing gear because it's going up and down.
Okay. Oh, my God. Okay.
Okay, so, yes, so they're doing a loop. But Bob Loft was not, particularly concerned about the landing gear in all of his years. As an experienced captain, he knew more often than not, it wasn't actually the landing gear that was the problem. It was usually the signal light on the panel malfunctioning. So not the actual gear, just like the little light is not, they're like, oh, it's just probably an electrical problem.
We would all hope.
Yeah. So they decided to keep the landing gear down while trying to sort out the problem with the light, growing irritated that their arrival would now be late because of a stupid light bulb. Don Repo, the flight engineer, was well versed in these issues, but the light panel was situated between the captain and the co-pilot, with the problem light being closer to the co-pilot. So he can't really reach it to fix it.
Okay.
So it would be easiest for the co-pilot to try and pop out the light assembly to change the bulb, which was more easily said than done. Apparently, it was a bit tricky to get the light housing out, and co-pilot Stockstill, along with Don Repo, both struggled to pull the little plastic light free. In the cabin of the plane, the passengers began commenting to each other that they seemed to have left the airport again, and were once again flying over the black depths of the Everglades.
This is the second loop.
Yeah. So some were slightly worried, but most were just annoyed. Nobody seemed particularly alarmed. Back in the cockpit, Captain Loft was growing more irritated at their failure to remedy a 20-cent light bulb. He told Stockstill, "Put the damn thing on autopilot here." Stockstill acknowledged and did so. Both men kept one hand on the controls while using the other hand to toy with the faulty light. Both pilots had their own autopilot system, but only one could be used at a time. They both had instruments that showed the readouts of what the autopilot was doing, but neither could see the other pilot's readouts, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. The autopilot system was state-of-the-art, and in order to disengage the system, the pilot simply had to engage a lever to the off position. Or, as an added safety feature, the pilot could disengage the autopilot by applying only about 15 to 20 pounds of pressure to the steering yoke, which is the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. This was so that if the pilot needed to immediately take over control, they wouldn't need to mess with a lever and they could just apply pressure to the steering yoke to regain control.
It's called a yoke?
Yeah.
Like an egg yolk? But a steering yoke?
Spelled differently.
Yeah. No.
It is?
It's Y-O-K-E.
Oh.
Learned something today.
I did.
The issue with this, however, was that the pilot could accidentally bump the steering yoke and inadvertently disengage the autopilot without necessarily realizing it.
I don't like that.
Which would send the plane into a downward descent.
No. No.
Another issue and design flaw were because the two pilots they couldn't read each other's instruments. So if one of them disengaged the autopilot, the altitude readings would only be accurate on the side that turned off the autopilot. The other side would still show the altitude indicator set at the desired altitude, which in this case was 2,000 feet.
That's fucked up. That sucks so hard. I'm so angry.
So hypothetically, or maybe not so hypothetically, if one of the pilots were to accidentally disengage autopilot by bumping the steering yoke, but was too distracted by something else going on in the cockpit to notice his readouts changing, the co-pilot would have no idea the craft was descending as the readout was still set at 2,000 feet.
I hate this.
It's really not good.
That's really not okay. That's a big fuck up.
It seems like a really big flaw.
Huge.
The pilots were also not trained on this particular anomaly, as it was pretty uncommon at the time, but it only takes once, right?
Oh, no.
So, the pilots continued to wrestle with the tiny light, growing more frustrated as they struggled to work it loose. Stockstill wanted a pair of pliers, but Loft knew he would just end up breaking it if they tried to force it. Flight Control checked in with Flight 401 and instructed them to continue circling, because they're not allowed to land until they have all three lights on or until they know that the landing gear is good.
Yeah, I get it. That's valid.
Right. So Captain Loft finally turned to Don Repo and told him to go down into the hellhole, which was a panel in the floor that could be removed to climb down into the compartment that housed the landing gear. Loft said to Repo, Hey, get down there and see if that damn nose wheel is down. You better do that. Repo told Stockstill that he would grab him some pliers and a Kleenex to try and cushion it so they didn't break the light. And then a frustrated Loft said, To hell with it. To hell with this. Go down and see if it's lined up with that red line. That's all we care about. Screwing around with that 20-cent piece of light equipment we've got on this plane. And so in the audio, you can hear everyone's kind of laughing because it's just kind of a ridiculous situation. Like,
Right. So there's audio. I mean, obviously there's...
Yeah, all of this I'm reading is quotes. Like,
Really?
Yeah, from them.
Oh, no. Did you hear it? Did you?
No, I didn't listen to... I don't know if it's actually... It probably is. Maybe available, but this is all from the readouts of
Okay.
the audio.
Okay. Wow.
So they're just like, this stupid... It's a 20-cent piece of equipment on this $1 million plane, and we can't... like, millions of dollars. We can't
Right. Like
land
the
this
most
thing.
luxury plane,
Yeah.
and we're dealing with this 20-cent stupid light.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So everyone's just kind of like, haha. Yeah. The irony.
No.
Because they figured the landing gear was probably fine, but they just needed to put eyes on it to confirm.
Sure.
So Don Repo opened the hatch in the floor and climbed down into the small space where only 2 people max could fit. Bob Loft continued to struggle with the faulty light, leaning across his seat in an attempt to reach it. It was awkward for both pilots, and he was even further away. Loft contacted Flight Control again to let them know he would head a little further out west over the Everglades before turning around again. Then hoping to have confirmation of the landing gear so they could come in for their landing. As Bob Loft continued to lean over his steering column to reach the light, the loudness of the cockpit dampened the sound of a soft chime going off at 11:40 p.m. The soft C-chord chime was a warning sound meant to alert the flight crew to a drop in altitude.
No.
Without knowing it, Captain Loft had bumped his steering controls and disengaged the autopilot, sending the plane into a slow downward descent.
Slow.
It's slow. However, because of the design error, co-pilot Stockstill was unaware this had happened, and both pilots were so invested in their task that they had not heard the warning chime over the roar of the sound in the cockpit. It also didn't help that the speaker for that chime was located near where Don Repo sat, and he was currently in the hellhole, well out of earshot of the alarm. As the plane slowly descended to 1,700 feet, there was no indication of the drop due to the inky blackness of their surroundings.
And it's so slow that they don't really feel it, probably.
Right. It's such a gradual descent, and it's so dark that there's no horizon line.
So they don't... so
they can't see it happening either.
Oh my god. Okay.
My booty's so clenched.
I'm so upset.
No, there's just so many things.
I think what's so crazy about airplane crashes too is that there's so much recorded.
Yes.
So you know the final moments because it's
recorded.
You
can hear everything happening.
And you figure out what happened in those moments.
I know, it's so haunting. Especially because they have no idea.
Oh, I have chills. I can't handle it. Okay. Oh, that's so sad. Okay.
It's fucking awful. So, as this is happening, Don Repo comes climbing out of the hellhole and says, "I don't see it down there." He explains that it's pitch dark down there, and when he threw the light switch, nothing happened. Angelo Donadeo was another employee who was in the cockpit and volunteered to go down into the hellhole to see if he could assist. Captain Loft realized he had not switched on the light from his control panel, which had to be on for the switch to work in the hellhole, which was another design flaw. You should be able to turn on the light when you go down there and it should work.
I mean, it's so basic.
Yeah, you shouldn't need the captain to turn on a light switch from where he's sitting. It doesn't make any sense.
It's so frustrating because obviously so much money went into this, and you would trust money and quality, and that there wouldn't be these huge stupid design flaws.
Yeah, and it's just so many small little things that all add up to a big catastrophe too.
Yeah, that's also so infuriating.
A little 20-cent light bulb, this stupid light switch, the C-chord chime that's just too far away for them to hear.
Right,
it's
the
just
little nudge of the
you can
wheel.
Just bump it. Just so many little things.
So infuriating.
So Captain Bob Loft, he switches on the light and he says, "Okay, now try it." So the two men disappear below at 11:41. Just then, Flight Control was watching their radar screen and noticed Flight 401 had an altitude reading of only 900 feet instead of the assigned 2,000 feet. He wasn't immediately alarmed, as false altitude readouts were common and would usually...
Again, what the fuck? Sometimes these readings are...
They're
false,
just
but it's fine. Sometimes the landing gear does it. It's normal. I don't like that.
Apparently, back in the day, I don't know if this still happens, but false readouts were really common. They would do a sweep and it would say their altitude was way off of what it should be, but then a couple sweeps later, it would return back to normal.
That's one of the most important things for the airplane to measure, and I'm upset.
So upset. She's waving her arms around.
I can't deal.
Yeah, and I guess back then the flight control, it wasn't their responsibility, and also it wasn't I don't want to say frowned upon, but they didn't want to be bothering the pilots with if there was a false readout to be "Hey, what's your altitude?" They weren't trained or instructed to do that.
They were afraid that they'd be annoying.
I don't know. Or maybe it happened so often that it would be annoying. I don't know. But that wasn't in their training.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also if it was false, more often than not, it fixed itself after a couple more scans on the radar. So if it didn't fix itself after 3 scans, I think that's when they were instructed to be "Hey, what's going on?" Mm-hmm. But it's going to be too much time. So... Flight Control was also orchestrating several other planes trying to land at the same moment, including another plane that was also having landing gear troubles.
Oof. Stressful night.
I could not handle that job of Flight Control, trying to orchestrate a bunch of planes landing.
Seriously.
No, thank you.
You're legit responsible for those lives as well.
Yeah. He was having to call fire trucks and stuff to the landing just for this other plane. So he's dealing with all kinds of shit.
Ugh, no. I hope they get paid.
God, they probably do. They better.
That's stressful. Even I was just thinking pilots, you must really not be afraid of plane crashes because That's literally a possibility of how you're going.
Every time you go into the air.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why so many of them drink.
Yeah.
Bad. Okay, so let's see. So instead of asking about the lower altitude, flight control checked in with Captain Loft instead, saying, Eastern 401, how are things coming along out there? Captain Loft responded, okay, we'd like to turn around and come back in. As this exchange occurred, the speed of the plane was increasing from 174 knots to over 188, which is about 200 miles an hour. The co-pilot pulled back on the throttle to reduce the speed, not realizing the increase was due to the angle of descent. His autopilot readout still showed they were at 2,000 feet.
That's so infuriating.
Unbeknownst to the flight crew, the plane was falling at a rate of 500 feet every 20 seconds. Oh. And they only started at 2,000.
That's fast. Okay.
Miami Flight Control came in saying, Eastern 401, turn left, heading 180. Loft responded, 180. It was now mere seconds after 11:42 p.m., and the plane had fallen to a mere 600 feet above the endless swamp below. Following the command of flight control, Stockstill gently turned his wheel to the left, and the left wing tilted at a 28-degree angle.
Which is so specific to her vision. Oh my god. Okay.
Suddenly, Stockstill spoke sharply, saying, we did something to the altitude. Loft responded, what? Stockstill said, we're still at 2,000, right? Seconds later, Loft was heard yelling, hey, what's happening here? Less than 10 seconds after that, the sound of the initial impact could be heard before communication was lost.
Okay.
And on that note, I'm going to pull a little cliffhanger and let's go to a break so we can breathe.
Oh my god, I need to breathe, yes.
Okay, welcome back. Right into the middle of the horror.
Yes.
We both took a breathing break.
Not sure I want to continue, but here we are.
Here we are. And we're gonna. Okay. So, the craft hit the Everglades at 227 miles per hour, with the left wingtip hitting the surface first, followed by the left engine and the left landing gear, tearing 3 trails through the marsh 5 feet wide and nearly 100 feet long. Then the fuselage hit as the craft continued to rip through the swampy terrain, breaking up as it went, scattering debris and sadly passengers over a 1,600 foot by 300 foot section. When the fuselage first made contact with the ground, jet fuel caused a massive fireball to rip through the cabin, greatly injuring many of the passengers still strapped to their seats.
Ugh. Okay.
Survivors talk about this just massive.
There's fucking survivors?
Yeah, spoiler. People survive.
Hold on, I need to process that trauma.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah,
living through that. Wow.
Just not even just crashing, you're seeing a huge fireball coming at you as you're crashing.
The massive metal tower that you're flying through the air in is crumbling around you. In a fireball in water swamp. Gatorville.
Gator
At
City.
night. Everything's bad.
Everything's bad.
Wow. Okay.
Back at Miami Flight Control, Operator Johnson continued to monitor his screen for any updates on Flight 401. His last transmission with Loft had been calm, but he wanted to make sure the altitude readout had fixed itself. But instead, the new readout showed a void. Johnson immediately called out to 401, asking if they would be requesting emergency equipment upon landing, but there was no response. He tried to reach them again, saying he had lost them on radar and the transponder and needed to know their current altitude. No response. Then, suddenly, he received a call from National Flight 611 saying, "Approach, this is National 611. We saw a big explosion. Looked like it was out west. I don't know what it means, but I want to let you know." Another call came in right after that from another flight who had just witnessed a large flash and an explosion before everything went black once more.
Eerie.
I know. There was also a witness on the ground. A man named Bob Marquise had been out hunting frogs in the Everglades.
Oh, casual nighttime hobby.
Yeah, frog. I think it's called gigging. Frog gigging.
Gigging?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I know. You just go stab a frog.
Oh my god. Wait, is that what they do?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, no, I'm upset. I thought you were just like catching them and be like, la 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 frogs.
You sweet, innocent girl.
I'm naive and stupid.
They eat their legs.
Oh, of course. It's a delicacy. Damn it. Okay, whatever. Ugh. Okay.
I've never tried it. I don't know.
I don't think I could.
I don't know if I could. Or anything like gator. Like, I know people will
Ooh,
just
I
eat
think
that
I've had
stuff.
gator jerky.
Really?
I think so.
What did you feel? How did you think about it?
I thought it was like jerky.
Oh, well. I guess dried meat's dried meat.
Yeah, it's more acceptable that way, you know?
Sure. Although I heard frog legs taste like chicken, but so does everything
I've also
else.
heard that. Okay, yeah.
Oh.
The little bones, though. Like, little bones.
Well, I mean, we're talking big Everglades toads. They probably got a good amount of meat on their
Ew.
legs.
And I just stabbed him? Like, with a stick?
It's a special. I don't know what the tool is called. A gigger,
Oh.
gig
Is
stick.
that
I don't know.
Gig stick? Oh my gosh, like somebody in Florida is like probably like
Pulling their hair out.
these idiots
Stupid girls.
on the West Coast. Okay.
I mean, my sisters and I used to catch frogs all the time. I've got a picture of me holding like a giant one, two-handed, big giant toad.
Wow.
Yeah,
Impressive.
fun times. We didn't eat them though. We, like you thought, caught and released.
See.
Okay, so yes, our sweet Bob Marquise. He's out hunting frogs in the Everglades on his airboat. You know what an airboat is, right?
With the fan?
Yeah, they kind of glide over the water.
I know some things.
Look at you. So he noticed the low-flying jumbo jet followed by a bright explosion about 5 miles from where he was.
Yikes.
Bob immediately jumped into action and gunned the throttle on his boat, racing towards the direction of the explosion. He wasn't sure what he would do when he got there, but he knew he needed to help. His boat ripped through the sawgrass and the ever-changing depths of the dark water. Every so often, he would cut his engine and listen for survivors.
Wait, so he's in the same swamp and he's going towards it?
Yeah, he's only about 5 miles away.
Wow.
I know, just like instant hero. He's like, I'm going to go see what I can do.
Okay, I take back. You can hunt frogs. You're a hero.
I'll give you a free pass on killing those little frogs.
Wow. Okay, but also like just like you're gonna see terrible bodies.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, I'm sure he wasn't prepared for what he was going to come on. But
Absolutely not.
he just is like, I got to go.
Oh my god. Okay.
Because there's no one else out there. It's just
Right.
like him. I think
like
he might have had a
almost
friend.
midnight.
But yeah, it's late. It's dark.
Wow.
And because of the swamp, the fire immediately went out. So, like, no one can see where it's at.
So he's like kind of listening for it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is like. Never mind.
Okay. So he would cut his engines to listen for survivors. As he drew closer, the agonizing screams of those who had survived cut through the night.
No.
Their screams grew louder as they noticed the headlamp Bob was wearing, which was the only light for miles. Bob began to see metal debris floating in the water and knew he had come upon the crash site. He heard a loud scream nearby and turned to see a man's head sticking up out of the water. It was only about 18 inches deep in this area, but the poor man had broken both of his arms and legs and would have to stop screaming as his head momentarily dipped under the water. If Bob hadn't found him, he would have surely drowned. Can you imagine surviving a plane crash and then drowning in a foot of like a foot and a half of water?
That's upsetting. Yeah. And you just can't even move your body and you're in excruciating pain
Yeah, just like
and buried in water.
you just wake up. Oh God, what a fucking horror show!
And you're conscious, like I would hope that they would be unconscious.
I think a lot of people were knocked unconscious from the crash, but they woke up in a swamp.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then there's gators.
Snakes,
Oh, and snakes.
frogs,
There's probably so many terrible things in that
so
swamp.
many critters. I can't even.
And like big fish with teeth.
oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's.
Maybe I'm thinking of like the Amazon.
I think you're thinking of piranhas. Who knows? I don't know if there's
Wow.
piranhas there. But lots of nasty bacteria also to be sitting in.
Slimy, dirty.
Yeah.
Oof.
So Bob did his best to move the man to a piece of wreckage so that he was no longer in danger of drowning, but there was little else that he could do for him. Poor Bob felt like throwing up, but he pushed past the panic and ran to a group of 5 people who were still strapped in their seats, tipped forward into the water.
Oh my God.
He's getting there like moments after it crashed too, so these people are... Ugh. So he quickly righted them so that they could breathe. I mean, he's saving people in the moment.
He's literally saving people.
In the moment.
I'm going to cry.
I know, he's a little hero.
Oh my God.
So he righted them so they could breathe, and then he quickly moved on, trying to save as many as he could simply from drowning.
Yeah, it's like he's like, sorry, I can't even unstrap you, but I'm just going to make sure you're not drowning.
Right.
And then I have to go to the next person.
Drowning person. Because, like, you can only drown for so long.
Oh my gosh, imagine you're still alive from a plane crash and then you're literally inhaling water. I don't want to drown. Like, that's one of the things I just don't want to die.
That's top on your list.
I just don't want to die drowning. No,
or in a fire. That's had both. Ugh.
Oh my God. Okay.
Sadly, though, it was too late for many of them who had already drowned after being knocked unconscious from the impact of the crash and then landing in the swampy water. The screams were coming from all around him, and Bob rushed from person to person, pulling their battered and half-naked or completely naked bodies.
And burnt?
I mean, a lot of them were burnt. Just the impact knocked their clothes off, which is always something I don't think about, but is pretty common.
That's wild. Yeah, I would never think of that.
Yeah, I've read so many stories where they're like, yeah, they were just naked. Like the Texas City thing,
so
like so many of them
vulnerable.
were just naked because of the explosion ripped their clothes off.
Or burned them off.
Yeah, like...
Wow.
Stuff you don't think about.
That's true. Like, it's obvious
right.
that would happen, but you don't think about it. You don't picture it that way.
Think of, like, plane crash survivors.
They're all wearing clothes.
They're in clothes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, after what felt like an eternity of trying to save all these people on his own, Bob finally saw a helicopter approaching at about 12:10 a.m. The Coast Guard were on their way, but the night was so dark with no moon that Bob's flickering headlamp was the only indicator of where they should be searching.
Wow, man.
So thank God that he was there, because like they wouldn't
Seriously.
have found them, or it would take a long time.
It must have been like a fresh, full new moon, like with 0.
Yeah, or maybe really cloudy. I'm not sure. It was just so dark. I think
That's so eerie.
they said there was a little bit of starlight, but other than that, nothing. Lieutenant McCormack was operating the chopper and began sweeping the area with his spotlight, surveying the vast field of debris scattered with little islands of survivors who were all frantically waving to him. The pilot attempted to land in the marsh near the wreckage, but every time he did so, the wind from the chopper would pick up pieces of debris and send them flying through the air like deadly shrapnel.
Oh, goodness.
He was finally forced to land 500 feet away from the wreckage, where he met resident hero Bob Marquis. The pair worked together to rescue as many survivors as they could, as more rescuers were approaching in the distance. Petty Officer Schneck had arrived at the wreckage and found himself at a section of the wreckage that appeared to be the cockpit. A surviving flight attendant called him over to assist 2 men calling for help, trapped inside. It was Don Repo and Angelo Donadeo. They had been in the hellhole during the impact.
Ooh.
Officer Schneck began to dig through the debris and came upon First Officer Stockstill, who had perished. He continued digging until he found another man with a lacerated ear and broken ribs. It was Captain Loft. He was still alive, but appeared to be in shock, struggling to move.
Oh, no shit. Oh.
Schneck told him to remain calm and try not to move too much. Help was on the way, and they would get him to a hospital. Loft looked at Schneck and said, "I'm going to die." Schneck argued with him and told him it would be all right and to stay put until help arrived. He then continued on to where the 2 men were trapped below, scared and crying for help. Water was coming up through the compartment, and they were at risk of drowning. Trapped in that.
That's also my worst nightmare.
Finally, more help had arrived on the scene. Basically, every agency in the state had been called in for reinforcements, and they were all descending into the Everglades. Mm-hmm. A doctor was brought to the cockpit to assist in getting Repo and Donadeo out of the hole. Both were badly injured. As the doctor entered the wreckage of the cockpit, he glanced at the captain lying on the floor and said, "Don't worry about that man. He's gone." Bob
So he
laughed.
did die?
Yeah, he passed away while waiting for rescue.
Oh.
It's so sad because he knew he was going to die.
He said it. It was like his last words. That's I'm having a hard time with this one. This is like very intense.
There's just so many details and like firsthand accounts.
Most heartbreaking, traumatizing, nightmarish, hellish.
So like he lived through the. I can't even imagine too like how he was feeling, like
Guilty.
the guilt,
and
and just the shock of like what the fuck happened. Like everything was fine.
Yeah, because there was no indication.
Yeah, like they didn't realize until seconds before the crash. Like.
That sucks too. Like it's not like he went unconscious. It's like he woke up and he knew and he felt all those feelings and then he passed.
And then died.
Oh my god. It's awful. Oh man, this is like one of the roughest ones.
I'm sorry. Be mad at Gus.
Gus.
So Repo and Donadeo were finally retrieved from the hellhole and were whisked away on a helicopter to the nearest hospital. Retrieval of the injured became an exhausting and daunting task as the rescuers attempted to carry the survivors out on stretchers, but would sink down deep into the muck and the water with every step, sometimes getting cut by shrapnel or dropping into watery pits as the ground level suddenly changed.
Oh, terrible.
Like it's exhausting sounding, like what they were having to. I think they eventually did like a fire bucket line brigade where they just made a giant line and would pass people along them instead of trying to carry people.
Yeah, because you're like probably knee deep in mud water, like,
and sometimes it just sinks to like 4 or 5 feet deep, and you're just like trying not to drop this poor person, injured person. I can't.
So many terrible things happening.
It's all stressful. So pockets of survivors clung to each other as they waited their turn to be rescued. In one group, there was a surviving flight attendant named Beverly Raposa who called out to anyone that could hear not to light a match. The entire area was doused in jet fuel, and one match could blow all the survivors away instantly.
Oh my gosh, but so smart of her.
Super smart.
Ugh. Especially, yeah, because there's no light. So she's like,
So your first instinct would be like, if you have a match to light one, but like everyone's doused in jet fuel.
Oh, that plane crash put out my cigarette. I better.
Oh, God. You could really use a smoke right about now.
I think I need a puff.
Although I feel like anyone's matches would probably be wet.
Yeah.
They had lighters back then. Still, though, it'd be a wet.
You don't want fire.
Don't do it. So, perhaps one of the bright sides to landing in the wetlands was that the entire plane didn't burn up on impact, as the marshy ground cushioned the impact somewhat and the water doused the fire.
Okay.
Which is why a lot more people survived. Like,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Silver lining there.
There's a little bit. Beverly did her best to keep the spirits up of the survivors around her, convincing them to sing Christmas carols with her as they waited.
Stop it. It's also December. Okay.
I know, it's just a few days after Christmas.
It's almost New Year's.
The sounds of jingle bells and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer could be heard over the screams of the dying and the injured.
Oh my God. You're killing
I'm
me.
sorry.
I can't handle it. Abby.
I'm sorry.
I think I'm mad at you. No, I'm mad at Gus. Oh, this is terrible.
Reminds me of the Titanic.
Okay, I was going to say that earlier, and then I said never mind. I was like, this is kind of like the Titanic, but in Florida with a plane.
Yeah. They're all singing.
Oh, and what? It's Christmas songs. Why is that so much worse?
I wouldn't want to die to that.
Annoying Christmas song.
Change the song.
Oh, as people are dying and screaming. Ugh.
And I think it's also because everyone knows those songs, so she was trying to pick songs that everyone would like be able to relate to and sing along with.
It's like still Christmas season, so
right.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that is just a really fucking depressing picture. Some of the survivors recalled the moments during the crash, but others remember nothing of the impact, only of waking up in the marshy wetlands in pain and the smell of jet fuel.
Oh.
Others recalled seeing the pink and orange fireball ripping through the cabin as they were violently tossed from side to side before losing consciousness and waking up cold and wet.
Ooh.
Children called out for their lost parents, husbands for their missing wives.
Oh.
Stop!
I can't.
Super heartbreaking. It's all heartbreaking and terrible. One man named Ronald Infantino was with his new bride Farah on the flight and recalled how she had asked him to switch seats with him before the crash. He survived, but she didn't.
Oh my God. I think, Abby, I'm mad at you. I want you to stop.
Okay, I think I'm done. With
I can't handle these details. It's
Okay.
so heartbreaking.
that was one of the last parts. Terrible details.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to say I'm all the way done, but I'm close.
Jesus.
I'm sorry. You need to know the horror.
I'm sorry. This is the worst one. This is topping the
Look, I feel
ship
like-
one with the sharks.
Oh God, the Indianapolis. Well, I feel like it's extra terrible because a lot of the plane crash ones we talk about don't have a lot of survivors.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, I think I mean, great that they're survivors, but
then you have to hear what they went through, and it's just
all the details.
it's so hard.
The guilt man. Okay, wow.
Okay. So it would take several slow and painful hours to rescue all of the survivors, with some waiting more than 4 hours to be taken to safety.
Sure.
Back at the airport, it became utter madness as the news came to the awaiting friends and family that Flight 401 had gone down. They screamed and cried in anguish as they waited for the names of their loved ones to be read amongst the surviving passenger list. Many of them wouldn't make it. One of the families waiting for their loved ones was Sadie Messina and her 2 sons. They were there to pick up her husband and father to her children, Rosario. Before they knew of the crash, the family was waiting patiently with the others when all 3 of them heard a distinctive whistle that Rosario would use to get their attention. All 3 turned towards the sound of the whistle, but he was nowhere to be seen. All 3 recall hearing the whistle about the time the plane would have gone down. And he didn't make it.
Ah!
Isn't that spooky? It's spooky and sad. In the end, 75 people survived the crash.
Wow. Wow.
75.
Out of how much?
There was 163 passengers. So, 75 people survived, 67 of the 163 passengers, and 8 of the 10 flight attendants. Don Repo would survive in the hospital for a little longer, but ultimately died from his injuries. Technical officer Don Adeo would be the only person to survive in the cockpit.
Oof.
For many of the survivors, the thick mud in the swamp may have saved their lives initially, as it had clogged their wounds and slowed the bleeding.
Makes sense.
However, as you may have guessed, filling open wounds with swamp mud,
This is not sanitary.
that can cause some nasty complications, such as the dreaded gas gangrene. When this occurs, the bacteria would ferment the sugars in tissues to create a gas, which would then spread rapidly through the tissues. The only way of fixing it was to either amputate the affected limb or put the person in a hyperbaric chamber until the bacteria was killed. This horrible infection would plague 8 of the survivors, who were all luckily able to be placed in hyperbaric chambers for treatment. I think they had to fly one person to like a military base. Like,
Wow.
It's not like those chambers are cheap or readily available, or a lot of them.
Yeah. Can they be in one together or one person?
I don't know. I don't think they're very big.
They look like they're sized for just one person.
Shoot.
Yeah. One of those who were plagued with that disease was poor Ronald Infantino, who had just lost his new wife, Farah. He would take months to recover, but would eventually end up marrying the nurse who stayed with him through his treatment. So that's kind of nice.
Wow.
Back at the crash site, the sun was just coming up over the horizon when Bob Marquise, the frog gigger, was satisfied there was no one left to be saved and got on his airboat and headed for home, never asking for anything in return. He's just like, oh, well,
Well,
call that a day.
yeah.
Go. I mean, that's just insane to me that he
How do
just
you
packed
sleep
up and
after
left.
that?
I don't know.
Wow.
And he suffered burns over most of his body from the jet fuel.
Really? Himself? Mm-hmm. Damn.
I'm sure, and like psychological scarring for life. Like, I can't even imagine.
Hello.
The
yes.
horror that he saw that night. Like, I can't.
Yuck.
Bob would later receive the Humanitarian Award from the National Air Disaster Alliance Foundation and the Alumatech Airboat Hero Award from the American Airboat Search and Rescue Association. Both well deserved. The following investigation of the crash was extensive. This was the first crash of a modern jumbo jet, and up to this point, the deadliest airplane crash in U.S. history. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board would be looking for the cause of the crash, as well as what could be changed to avoid anything like this in the future. The fragments from the wreckage would be collected and painstakingly reassembled to get a better idea of what happened during the flight's demise. The black boxes were recovered, and investigators pored over the audio recordings from the cockpit to try and glean what happened in the moments leading up to the crash. And can you imagine that job? God, that's such a depressing job.
Terrible.
Investigators found it hard to believe the crash was due to the flight crew's incompetence. They were all very experienced. They were well respected in their fields. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, an autopsy of Bob Loft showed that he did have a benign brain tumor he had been unaware of, which may have affected his vision. Bob did wear glasses, but it was ultimately found that the brain tumor had no bearing on the crash.
Yeah.
The pre-flight inspection of the plane had shown that everything was in perfect working order, and in terms of the structure and electrical systems. And the post-accident examination found that the landing gear in the nose of the plane had been in perfect working order, which is super sad to think about.
Wait.
The gear was fine.
The gear was fine.
It was just the light bulb.
Abby, I need to quit. I can't.
We're almost done.
No, I can't. Stop it.
I know.
That's so irritating.
And just so tragic. Like,
oh my God.
there was nothing wrong with the landing gear.
Yet they had to mess with that stupid light bulb.
Yeah. As the investigation wore on, they began to find many of the small issues that had led to the tragedy. The Seacord chime that had warned of a decrease in altitude was so soft it was difficult to hear in the cockpit.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Especially since it only came out of one speaker near the second officer's seat. And in this case, that person was Don Repo, who had been down in the hellhole trying to get a visual on the landing gear.
Mm-hmm. Warning, your plane is about to crash.
Yeah, like...
It's like whispering it.
I know.
Warning, altitude low.
Hey, you guys.
Pull up, everybody's gonna die.
Jesus.
Hey, pull up, everybody's gonna die.
It's just like this really soft, like, ding.
Yeah, that's, you want the loudest horn.
Yeah, I want a wah, wah, wah.
Yes.
We're going down.
Jeez.
So, let's see, where was I? So that leads them to their next problem of why Repo had struggled so much to see the landing gear. Why had it been so dark that he couldn't see? The crew had incorrectly thought the light came on automatically when the landing gear came down, but it was actually operated by a switch located at eyebrow level on the captain's side of the control panel. This setback had cost them precious time. Had Don Repo been able to see the landing gear when he went down there the first time, the whole crash could have been avoided.
Oh my God.
Then there was, of course, the autopilot programming and the fact that the pilot and co-pilot could not see each other's readouts. Specifically in this case, when the autopilot was accidentally disengaged by Captain Loft when he leaned over to mess with the faulty light he pressed against the steering yoke, the readout on the co-pilot side still showed they were engaged in autopilot at an altitude of 2,000 feet, even though they had already begun their slow descent.
Yeah, that's infuriating.
So many things. But in the end, it was ultimately decided that the crash was due to pilot error. Quote, the failure of the flight crew to monitor the flight instruments during the final 4 minutes of flight and to detect an unexpected descent soon enough to prevent impact with the ground. Preoccupation with a malfunction of the nose landing gear position indicating system distracted the crew's attention from the instruments and allowed the descent to go unnoticed. I think that's shitty.
I'm angry.
How about poor maintenance for letting that light bulb be out?
Right? Like, I feel like it's such a airline thing to blame
the pilots because it's easy and they don't want to pay for it.
And they're dead, so like they can't defend themselves.
I'm so angry.
Yeah, I'd be really
It's
pissed.
so obviously not their fault.
I mean, like, yes, they were distracted, but there were so many things that could have prevented them from being that distracted.
Yeah, which is the
Take
plane
some
malfunctioning.
Responsibility.
They were too preoccupied with the light bulb being out that wasn't their fault to save themselves from
Yeah.
the altitude reading that wasn't accurate that wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
Also, sorry I slightly bumped this wheel thing, but like, there's no, I can't read the things. No.
No.
How
I'm
about
so
one reading?
angry.
How about one altitude reading they can both see?
Right?
Yeah.
I just that thing, it made me really upset.
That's really infuriating.
Yeah.
I hate money.
It's always
greedy
money.
shit.
They're just like, nope, not our fault. After the investigation, several changes were made to ensure this would not happen again, including requiring a flashlight near the jump seats in the cockpit and better training for the flight crew in terms of problem solving in a more efficient manner.
I just love, you just need a fucking flashlight here. Go to the dollar store, get a fucking flashlight.
Problem
Wow.
solved.
Wow.
Apparently, like, this new training, though, I was reading, it did lead to, what was that? The landing on the Hudson? Like, they're saying because of that new training, people didn't die on that flight because of
Interesting.
the training. I'm like,
Sully.
Sully.
Hero. I remember
So-
when that happened. It's so crazy.
Yeah, that was an interesting little tidbit, but still.
So,
Recommendations were made to require a flashing light along with the chime to indicate a loss of altitude, and new procedures were set in place for flight control to warn quickly when a significant deviation in altitude was noticed on the radar screen. None of this, of course, mattered to those who lost their lives on December 29th, 1972, but I guess it is a small consolation that the airline kind of learned from its design flaws and made some changes.
yeah, because they weren't aware of all of them, I'm sure. Right?
I was reading an interview that they were aware of the like
being naive again, stupid, trusting.
well, they were aware of the autopilot thing, how like one person they
tapping
couldn't
it.
see each other's screens, and they're like, well, isn't that like a redundant thing? Like, and they're like, well, we'd have to think about that. But so I feel like some of these problems were known, but they hadn't really caused a problem yet. So
yeah.
you know. As for the aftermath of the crash and the spooky sightings of deceased flight crew members, you guys will just have to wait for our next episode because I have some wild accounts to share with you all. So be sure to tune into part 2 of our little series on Eastern Airlines Flight 401. And again, a special thanks to Gus for the trauma and the recommendation.
Wow, the most trauma I've ever received on this show.
You say that every episode.
Do I?
This is the worst one you've ever told. This one was really sad, though.
This one was rough.
I didn't even give you all the terrible details. I could have traumatized you more. Because there was more. And I was just,
That's
God, it was really
terrible.
hard to get through that book. But
Yeah, so I'm very interested because obviously ghosts are or spirits or whatever in the next part 2. And the plane crashed. So I'm very interested to see how this plays.
it is wild, I'll tell you that. Of course, there's people that will say it's all bogus and a lie. And
Sure.
so there's two sides to that story, of course. But it's
Wow.
it's really unique in the sightings. Like, I don't think I've heard of anything like it before.
Yeah. Airplane ghost? What?
Yeah, it's. I was telling Michael about some of them. We were both just like, ugh.
Yeah, that's wacky. Okay, wow. I'm excited then for part 2. Thank you.
You're welcome. It'll probably be less traumatizing.
I hope so.
I mean, they are spirits, but no one else dies.
Wow. Well, great job for being terrible.
Thank you. I just, that's my passion. Just to traumatize you all because I had to be traumatized. So you have to share my pain.
Okay. We're all here together.
Yeah. So, yeah. So sorry for all of those people who lost their lives. It's just god awful.
Yeah, I never meant to be like insensitive in any part of this. So I'm so sorry if that came across that way. But
Yeah. Never mean to be insensitive. Sometimes our hysteria just sounds a little insensitive. But
yeah, I'm just like also nervous laughing the
Yeah.
whole time, and that can come off like terrible.
yeah, we don't think it's funny. We're just traumatized.
I just hate the thought of it.
Yeah. It's really bad. It's
Ugh,
really
those
bad.
poor people. Those poor people.
Yep. So anyway,
I need to watch some cartoons.
me too. We need a Disney movie or something.
Something upbeat.
Yeah. But do you want to do City of the Week?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, and that goes to Simi Valley, California.
Hey, City
Hey.
Valley. I haven't heard of that place
I'm
before.
sorry, I have not heard of you either, but thank you for listening.
We heard of you now. Thanks for listening.
I hope you're just as traumatized after this.
Yes, you're welcome, Simi Valley, California. And if you would like to be widely traumatized, tell your friends and your family, and you can all listen together and be City of the Week.
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you. All right. So what are some things we need a palate cleanser? So so how do we cleanse our palate of this? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What do you recommend?
Okay, Michael and I took your suggestion, and we started watching 30 Rock.
I'm so proud of you. I was just like, yeah, she keeps saying she doesn't like Alec Baldwin. She's just not going to do it. It's whatever. It's fine. But I'm so proud of you. Yay! I hope you like it.
Like, the show's tricking me into liking Alec Baldwin, I think.
Because you love Jack Donaghy.
I do love... I'm like, I probably still hate him in real life, but I like his character.
How far are you into it?
End of season 3 or middle of season 3, I want to say.
Yeah, I'll
Maybe
watch a
season
few
4.
every night.
Okay.
And it's just, like,
Look at...
easy to watch because they're short and...
Yeah.
But it's funny. Of course, it's hilarious. And
Tina Fey.
I just love every one of them now. Even Tracy Morgan, who I was like, I don't know if I like him, but now I like him more.
Yeah. I think he fits into this character well. Like
He does.
He does it well.
Yeah.
It's funny.
At first, I thought I would think he was obnoxious, but now I'm like, nah, he grew
It's
on
funny.
me.
It's funny.
He grew on me.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. That's been a nice, palate cleanser for us because we were watching some dark space shows. So
Oh, fun. Dark space stuff.
yeah, so it's a little more lighthearted. But speaking of dark space stuff, I watched a movie last night that I did not like.
Oh, you did not like it?
It's called The Colony, and it's like on Netflix, and it's a newer movie. I think it was made last year, but it's like one of those futuristic dystopian
Space movies.
Yeah, they're not in space. It's like people from space come back to Earth, and
Interesting.
we fucked up Earth, and so the people that are here are also not great. I don't know.
This wasn't that good.
It's just like one of those movies where the ending is just like, you decide what happened, and I'm like, God damn it, you tell me what happened. You made the movie.
Right. I didn't come here to figure out myself.
Why is this on me? Why is this my responsibility? I guess
Yeah.
I'm not into artsy endings. I always get really frustrated.
Isn't that like, what is it, Inception, where it leaves you guessing
Yes.
if the top falls or not when it
Did
gets
it
wobbly?
happen? What happened? We're not going to tell you. Figure it out. Like, no. Tell me.
Yeah.
I spent 2 hours of my life.
Is he awake or not? That's a part of the story. Tell me the story.
So that's what Abby doesn't recommend.
I get it. It's frustrating.
Yeah. I'm not into artsy movies, I guess. My bad. I'm simple. I like everything to be spoon-fed to me. What about you, Shauna? What are you watching?
Actually, I'll switch it over to music. Because Post Malone came out with a new album, and I've listened to it. It's pretty good. It's how I keep myself young, right?
Yeah, Posty. I did
like
not know he had a new album,
It just came out recently.
Okay.
It's super recent.
but you like it?
I dig it.
Okay.
It's good.
It's, pop or
I
whatever.
like it, poppy R&B. Yeah,
Got
it's
some-
catchy.
Got some bops on there?
Got some good bass.
Well,
Yeah, I like it. So I recommend that. Watching.
there's so many Netflix documentaries. I've watched a lot of them.
True. You know what I did start, though, that I highly recommend because it's the most delightful thing and it makes you so happy is, you know how there is Love on the Spectrum?
Yes.
That's set in UK.
Oh.
The US just made one.
Okay.
So it's Love on the Spectrum US edition or whatever. And super cute. You got to watch it. It's like the same gist, but in America. So it's like.
We binged the whole season when we were at Jesse's bachelorette
We
weekend.
did.
We watched the whole thing. It was so
did.
great.
And we've been in love ever since. It's such a good show.
I know. I want all of them to find love.
They're so cute and cheesy, and I love it.
I know. They're so genuine. I love them.
So I recommend that.
Oh, good, because I've just been watching, terrible true crime documentaries, and
Well, there's a couple fun things.
there's a new one out on Jeff's Warren with that creepy. He's that creepy cult guy that had all of the wives.
Oh, I think I just added that to my list. I was like, oh, here's another one. Got to put it on my list at least.
Yeah, I've heard there's some traumatizing stuff in there, so be
Ooh,
aware
that's
of that.
dark. That's probably real dark.
Yeah, because he's the underage. Ugh,
Gross.
it's gross. It's gross.
Men are gross. The end.
Sorry, Michael.
I man hate a lot. I'm sorry.
Ugh, just that. Ugh, yeah. So that'll be a tough watch, but I'll probably torture myself and do it.
I still got to watch the Maryland one too.
I haven't watched that either.
I know. It's hard to watch things now.
It is. Except I'm like, everything already sucks. You want escapism,
Yeah.
but then you torture yourself and do it anyway. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. I don't think I'm listening to any new music right now. Just the same stuff.
Sure.
So I guess I'll just say good up and good night then.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, for my sources, I read the book The Ghost of Flight 401 by John G. Fuller, went to wikipedia.com, airlinegeeks.com, and www.faa.gov. Our music is by Broke for Free and Matt Edwards, and we are edited by Michael.
All right. Should I list our social needs?
Please do.
We have a lot of our things at Anxious and Afraid the Pod. So that's our handle for both of our Facebook page and group, along with our Instagram and Gmail.
We have a Twitter at AA the Pod.
You can support us on patreon.com/anxious and afraid.
If you do that, you get some pretty nice perks. You get ad-free episodes that are released a whole day early, and you get a free sticker.
You can also support us for free if you can't do any of that by leaving a rate review. You subscribe to the show, tell your friends.
Yeah, we would appreciate all of it. Do it right now.